Welcome back to KTN Prime. Thanks for staying with us. As hinted earlier, it's now time to talk politics and matters governance. In studio, I'm joined by two seasoned legislators. Allow me to introduce them. I'm first of all joined by Kadhiani Member of Parliament, Robert Mbui. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Asante sana for honoring the invite. Equally joined by Jared Okello, the Member of Parliament of Nyando constituency. Karibu sana.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come back home.
Welcome home.
Thank
you.
So
so much to talk about, and I'd like us to evaluate a couple of issues from the strategies that are put in place ahead of the November 27th by-election in various areas across the country. We've seen joint candidature strategy by members of the United Opposition and equally members of the Kenya Kwanza administration and in extension the ODM party. Not just that, ODM is living in a post-Raila reality. How are things shaping out? What's the way forward as we move on to the 2027 general election? And equally, we have to ask, what is the mechanism by the United Opposition to pick a presidential candidate to face off against President William Ruto? So we'll be talking about these things and others. Allow us to just canvass what has been playing out in the political landscape briefly after the passing on of Raila Odinga, which has left an absence. He was a man who embodied the struggle for democracy, justice, and reform. And it's no secret that the passing on of a founding member of a political party, especially in the African context, actually is both a mourning moment and a test for the institutional survival of these political parties. Let's just listen in to some of the sentiments that have been shared during the post-Raila reality by the ODM members.
Anyone who associates with Gachagua and his ilk, like Kahiga, cannot be our friend. The line is drawn.
The line has been drawn. We will not seek any friendship with Gachagua and his surrogates.
Nasikia kuna watu wanazunguka wakisema ati ni baba pekee alikuwa anaweza kuangusha wao kura. Kuna mjumbe hapa ametuambia mtoto wa Simba ni nini? Simba. Watashangaa sana. Kama mwenye kuandika huo mkataba na ujua na uelewa, najua ulikuwa ni wa nini, najua unasema nini na ni kipi haisemi. Niliandika hapo ndani mimi mwenyewe nikasema, this agreement does not constitute a coalition agreement with UDA. Iko hapo, Ruto alisign, baba alisign.
Tutachungalia tuone kila point imetimizwa mpaka 2027 tufanye pamoja mpaka 2027. Ikifika 2027 na nyinyi mkugangari, you can either form the government or you will be in government. But we are not going to be a party which will be out of government.
Kesho tunaenda Magarini. We are going as Orange ODM. Hakuna party inaitwa broad based. Umesikia? Hata Malava tuko na candidates ya UDA na wapi. Wanaenda kama UDA. Sisi pia tunaenda kama ODM.
We are fully behind the Honorable Dr. Oburu Odinga as our interim party leader, and that we will support him.
Okay, just an array of sentiments shared by those in the political space. And what better opportunity to get it from the horse's mouth right now? We have an ODM Member of Parliament, and I'd like to begin with you, Jared, on a number of issues that have been canvassed over the past few days. Perhaps let's start with ODM's identity in this broad-based government or the working scenario with the UDA and the Kenya Kwanza administration. It seems while you're campaigning for the November 27th by-election, you're keen on ensuring the identity of the party remains despite this working relationship. Is this perhaps a sign of the gap that has been left by Raila Odinga and the work ahead in order to ensure that you retain your traditional strongholds, be it in Nyanza, be it in Western, be it in Coast, in some of these areas that are hosting by-elections this month?
Well, thank you very much, Rogers. And as I did say, it's usually very, very pleasant to come back home.
Welcome home.
We have, over the years, saw the transition within KTN as one of the very strong, vibrant media outlets whose main mandate has been to inform, to educate, and to entertain our people. And KTN has done a splendid job on that front. Allow me again to pass condolences to the family and friends of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. The country is still mourning. Traditionally, we are used to funerals that take protracted amount of time before somebody is interred. This 72 hours is a new phenomenon, much less coming from a person who was, by our standards, larger than life. We had expected that we were going to mourn Baba for 2 months before taking his remains 6 feet deep down the ground. However, that was his choice, and as the family of Odingas, the ODM family and the Republic of Kenya, we had no choice but to respect that kind of will that was unveiled to us by his lawyer. ODM, as a political outfit, as you are aware, will be celebrating its 20 years anniversary in Mombasa. Baba, before he passed, had organized for this celebration to take shape in Mombasa for 3 days, where various activities were to precede the main anniversary. And he, even while talking to many from India, where he was very optimistic of coming back home on the 15th of October, had always indicated that that celebration must be given the prominence that is necessary for that political movement. That Baba, sacrificed his sweat and blood to build and to make a voice that represents the people in this republic. Now, fast forward, Baba signed an agreement with United Democratic Alliance, which is the governing political party now, having recognized some 10-point agenda items that needed to be addressed, some of which touch on inclusivity, where a section of our political divide had made it clear that Kenya and government in particular was to be earmarked for those who have shares, meaning those who voted for the government of the day, and therefore alienating many others who did not, participate in a democratic process, which is elections. And elections, are a free choice that people make without necessarily cajoling you to move a particular fashion. Little did we know that that was going to have its own serious ramifications by sidelining everybody who voted a different way. So inclusivity sat at the center of the 10-point agenda items. Of course, we've got others like fight against corruption, stopping abductions that became wanton at a particular time, and many others. So that was between two political parties. And we have to remember that between 2017 and 2022, ODM as a political movement had 78 members of parliament. But between 2022, when we went into elections in 2022, we were able to get 88 members of parliament. So we gained 10.
Okay.
So that is a vibrant, strong political party if you have to juxtapose it against other political leanings in the House. And therefore, even though we are in some set of arrangement with the Kenya Kwanza alliance, or government, ODM as an entity must retain its identity, because it is upon, through that same structure of ODM, that Kenya Kwanza came into an alliance with ODM. And therefore, as an ardent supporter of ODM, and a member of the National Executive Committee, we will do everything humanly possible to retain our identity now and post-2027.
Okay.
Because one of the legacy that Baba would want to pervade for the longest is to have ODM remain intact. And this is a political party that is strewn all over the Republic. It would be a travesty to allow ODM to die under the auspices of any arrangement with any political outfit.
Okay.
So we will be there, we will strengthen it, we will be moving across the country. Tomorrow, my party leader, together with us, will be in Homa Bay, continuing to mourn Baba. You remember, at least the Kisumu people had the opportunity to see the remains of Baba, and Siaya, of course, where he was buried. So two very fundamental counties were left out, and this is Homa Bay, where we will be trooping in tomorrow,
Okay.
and Migori, where we will be camping on Thursday. So these are very key to us, and not just these two areas. We have plans, quite elaborate so, to move across the Republic, particularly after the 27th by-elections, 27th of November by-elections, slated for various places and various political seats.
You brought up matters to do with the 10-point Memorandum of Understanding. As a member of the ODM party, are you satisfied with the progress in terms of implementation of this 10-point agenda?
We are not there yet, because again, we have to recognize that we were not going to wake up one morning and realize that all the 10-point agenda items have been addressed. One key fundamental thing, and that is what has given birth to the impending by-elections, was to have IEBC in place. You remember, since the last elections, and 4 commissioners resigned out of what happened at the Bomas of Kenya, and then 3 who remained in office had their terms expiring. So we did not have IEBC in place.
Yeah.
And there have been a myriad court decisions on what constitutes IEBC. And the courts have consistently said that it is the commission. And the commission is composed of the chair and the commissioners. You've got the secretariat, yes, which then sits as the accounting officer, in quote, headed by the CEO. But when it comes to the commission itself, it is the IEBC. We had a protracted approach on recomposition of IEBC. The matter went to court severally. And, you know, the process of getting the panel, some panel members who were also challenged in a court of law. And by the time we were settling on the IEBC as an outfit, it took way too long. And we have to remember, Rogers, that what precipitated the 2007 elections, which then gave birth to fights and violence, that part of our team ended up at the ICC. The resultant consequences were because of inappropriate preparation for the elections. And one of the findings by Kriegler Commission was that you must have an electoral merchandise 2 years into an election. And we were almost teetering at that border.
Okay.
And thankfully, by having the 2 leaders, the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, now we have an IEBC. On inclusion, I would say my region was sidelined in representation at the cabinet. And that inclusion brought in people from the coast, from Nyanza, from Western Kenya. And therefore, we now have a face of Kenya in President Ruto's cabinet, away from you know, the share mantra. So that has also been fulfilled. You remember Baba was very loud about stopping abductions. And many times he told the president to his face to stop abductions and wanton killings of our young people. And thankfully that also stopped as a result of his rapprochement with the president. So we haven't, you know, really got to the level where we want, recognizing the 10-point agenda.
Yeah.
But again, you would bear me witness that we have also stepped up the war against corruption. We have seen governors aligned to the president, whom you would expect the president to make a phone call to stop EACC, for example, from going after his people. But he has let the independence of these institutions to pervade and to fester. So we are not there yet, but we hope that because this is actually what informed our working formula with President Ruto, upon which failure to implement the 10, because we are going to tick the boxes at the end of the day.
Well, when's the end of the day? Is there a timeline?
Well, you know, campaign proper is going to begin when IEBC will announce, and we are going to tick boxes at that point. I believe President Ruto has the wherewithal to make sure all those agenda items are both respected and implemented.
All right.
If they are not, then we may have to review our relationship with him. But this is what has informed our working with him between now and 2027.
You may or you shall. Anyway, we'll get to that later on. Let's hear from the Kathiani Member of Parliament, Mbui. A lot has been said about ODM's strategy to retain its perceived traditional strongholds. You can speak to this reality, bearing in mind you're equally itching to take a chunk of some of these strongholds that were perceived to be ODM strongholds. But equally, you're from outside looking in, this 10-point MOU between UDA and ODM, are we on course?
Yeah, thank you, Rogers. Let me first begin where my colleague and friend also started, in mourning the Right Honorable late Raila Amolo Odinga. In fact, I will say that on Thursday, I belong to Hyper Patriotic Front. I come from Mount Kenya South, which formerly known as Lower Eastern. And we are going with our elders to go and pay tribute to our fallen hero and condole with the family. And this has been occasioned by the fact that my party leader, His Excellency Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who in 2013 and 2017 was Raila Amolo Odinga's running mate for presidents, and in 2022, even though he was not the running mate, whipped us all into supporting Baba in the last election, was not given a fair chance to mourn him. When they went to Nyayo Stadium, he was just recognized, his name was mentioned, he was not given a chance to speak. When we went to Bondo, he was given 2 minutes, and the person who was there behind him, harassing him and harassing him, was none other than Kindiki, the deputy president, who has never supported Raila at all in politics. So I found that quite unfortunate. And you know, I was looking at people there looking sad and crying crocodile tears, and remembering just a short while ago, you showed on your station here, Baba's vehicle riddled with over 10 bullets by this regime, Kenya Kwanza regime. So it's interesting how people forget very quickly. And I'll tell you, the struggle continues, because even before Baba's body was buried, when Baba had rested, they shot our youth in the stadium. I mean, this regime is completely out of order. Now, I don't know how the relationship of ODM and Kenya Kwanza will proceed, considering that, you know, every step of the way, I think the Kenya Kwanza regime is bungling it, because shooting mourners in Baba's, you know, at the stadium before burying Baba was already an insult to his legacy. This is a this is a leader who stood for human rights and believed in the rule of law. And this is a regime that says, shoot them on the leg, you know. So people are being shot on the leg before Baba was even buried. I don't know how ODM will reconcile with that kind of relationship. This is a regime that is going around the country. Instead of doing development in the right structured manner, they are going out dishing handouts. Voter bribery, both at State House and in funny harambes. They are calling some of them empowerment for women, empowerment for the youth. You know, so they are dishing out money, small monies all over the place to try and convince voters that they should be given another term. These are the things Baba spoke against, and these are the things that some of us have picked up. After Baba rested, careless talk has been around. We had some leader from Nyeri who said some very, unacceptable things when he said, it's like it's God's will and almost celebrating. But then strangely, Rogers, I'll tell you that none other than the president has also seemed to celebrate the death of Raila. When he said that the only person who would have been a problem and a challenge in the next election is Raila. And so obviously, he's not there. So that means it's an advantage to him. What kind of leader speaks about such things? Why would you say that? And I've seen clips where he was even saying, I'll take Raila back to Bondo and he will not even know. And I'm asking myself, what? Why would you make certain comments of this nature? And you're a leader, a national leader. So people have to be careful the things they say about each other, because you never know about tomorrow. And some of these things, it's not us who do them. But let me say that I think from where I sit, Oburu, Raila himself, and Sifuna are speaking the same language, which is a language that says that we have an agreement, but we are not bound by it. We have an agreement, and this agreement basically is just a guideline on how we can relate in the short term, not the long term. And so some members of ODM have misinterpreted. We've all had Baba. Baba, the last time he was in public was in a meeting with his members, and he said, who told you that we are going into the next election supporting UDA? Who tells you that ODM is not going to have a presidential candidate? Those are his last words. But everybody wants to interpret them because there are some experts in the regime that want to continue earning a salary. So they say, no, Baba said we are going to go 2-term, I don't know, 3-term. But I'm listening to Oburu, and Oburu is making a lot of sense. Sifuna is making a lot of sense. They're saying we had an agreement to pacify the nation and make sure that we get some things done for our people. But when it reaches that time, we will make a decision on how to go forward. I only hope that they don't leave it too late, because for you to prepare adequately for the next election, you cannot be, in a sinking ship up to the last minute. Okay. So I think it's important that ODM checks their relationship, and just before, maybe towards some half of next year, somewhere in the middle of next year, they can get out of the ship before it sinks and buries them, all of them.
Okay, interesting. Okello, perhaps a chance of rebuttal, because at the end of the day, we've definitely had a lot from the ODM hierarchy. The dailies have posted matters to do with deputy president or nothing, We've definitely had on matters to do with anticipating a working relationship post-2027. We've equally had you mentioning Gachagua surrogates and whatnot. You won't be seeking political friendships with such. So 2027, is it given, or are you firmly within broad-based? What's next saying?
Well, let me firstly put the Gachagua and surrogates into context. Just when we had that presser in Kisumu, it followed a previous day's very absurd pronouncement by the governor for Nyeri in a funeral in Nyeri, which has been ably put by my brother, Honorable Mbui, who was celebrating the death of Baba, even by invoking the name of God, that God may have answered their prayers. But you have to also remember that 2 months ago, we had one particular woman representative from Mount Kenya who said that they are praying that Baba would rest so that he does not become a beneficiary of all successive regimes. And she really took a swipe at Honorable Mbadi being at Treasury and Honorable Okello being in charge of energy and petroleum into this government that they never voted for. So that was before, way before Baba fell ill. But then Baba, falls ill and passes on in India, and Kahiga comes out to make that very unfortunate pronouncement. His pronouncement to me did not matter much.
Okay.
His, consequential apology also doesn't make much hay to me. But the mere fact that even as he was speaking, people were cheering him on in that particular funeral. Ordinarily, firstly, stemming from our African culture, you cannot celebrate death. Even for your fiercest critic, your worst enemy would be dead. But when it comes to death, in Africa, everybody then expresses empathy about that particular death.
Okay.
But for that huge crowd attending a funeral to celebrate and to cheer Governor Kahiga as he threw epithets to the dead, I think speaks a lot more than just his words as an individual and his attendant apology thereafter. Baba was larger than life in many fronts. He had a way of forgiving even his worst of enemies on earth. You remember, whereas people say the only election that Baba won fair and square was 2007, and that therefore precipitated a swearing in dead in the night by the late former president Mwai Kibaki. But still, Baba reached out to Kibaki and they found a working formula. They had a very, very fierce war with Uhuru Kenyatta that led to the elections of 2013. And we went to court with 800-paged evidence to present before Justice Willie Mutunga's Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Now, that evidence was thrown out by Willie Mutunga on technicalities, and as a result, we lost both at the Supreme Court and from the IBC pronouncement, and Uhuru Kenyatta became president.
Okay.
In 2017, Baba went into election. We believe he won. The matter went before the Supreme Court, and for the first time, that election was vitiated by the Supreme Court. Of course, a repeat was ordered, which Baba refused to participate because the ground refused to be level for everybody to participate in. But with all that, Baba still reached out to Uhuru Kenyatta under the handshake and worked together with him. President Ruto and the elections of 2022, everybody knows what transpired, but still that never stopped him from working with President Ruto. So Baba had a bigger heart than most of us. There are certain things that happened to him, including incarceration for 9 years in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
But when he came out,
All right.
he reached out to President Moi, and they worked together. So if Baba was alive, this Kahiga pronouncement would not have disturbed him.
Okay.
Yeah, but it disturbed some of us. Because how on earth would somebody celebrate death?
Yeah, it's an un-African,
Very
and it has
un-African,
been
very
castigated
unpalatable.
across the political divide, including with members of the opposition. So you can't rule out seeking friendship with Gachagua if you're borrowing from Baba's political doctrine. You never know, right?
Yeah, you just never know
Okay.
what happens in politics. But
Yes.
then history becomes an integral part of informing your next course of action.
All right.
We've worked very well with part of his team, and this is Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, successively over the years. And I do not foresee, I don't really doubt the mere fact that Kalonzo would also reach out to President Ruto so that we form a formidable force getting into 2027.
Interesting. Let's take a short break. The bills have to be paid. As we come back, we'll put Robert Mbui to task on some of the pronouncements that have been mentioned by Jared Okello, even as we evaluate the test of unity within the united opposition. They've mentioned they have a matrix in place to find a single candidate to face off against President William Ruto. What exactly does it entail? This and much more after the break. Keep it KTN Prime.
Bro, nakwambia tangu kivoshi ndio gari ilitoka kwa gari.
Mimi hata nashindwa rada ni gani. Kevo. Rada ni gani utaki kushuka hii gari bana? Angalia hata msupa. Manze. Kwa nini nyumba? Nyumba. Wacha nikuoneshe.
Pia wewe unaweza beba ukibetika. Kila wiki kuna ma 55-inch smart TVs masenke, yani manduthi za kubeba. Na kwa grand prize kuna 2 brand new Suzuki Balenos. Na mse mmoja tu atabeba Isuzu 33-seater minibus. So kama fomu yako ni kuchambua ball, kucheza kasino ama crash games, jua kila bet, win or lose, ina count. Na hii season unaweza beba ukibetika. Betika, chukua lamba bingwa.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. We continue with our deliberations right here in studio with 2 seasoned legislators. And if you were just watching, we're evaluating matters to do with ODM generally, the working relationship with the ruling party UDA and the Kenya Kwanza administration. But right now, let's talk briefly about the united opposition, because the 2027 general election is gradually taking shape, pitting the ruling Kenya Kwanza administration and the united opposition, with leaders now saying they're edging closer to find out who will face off against President William Ruto. They mentioned this just yesterday. Let's listen in to some of the sentiments shared by the high-ranking officials of the united opposition.
The formula of getting a single presidential candidate to face William Ruto is on course. And for those who have been in doubt, what is happening in these by-elections is a dress rehearsal of the formula and the mechanism to get a single presidential candidate to face William Ruto.
Sisi team ya united opposition, we are truly united, and we will continue to consult into every difficult situation, because after consultation, William Ruto will definitely and absolutely be one term.
I'd like just to inform him that we are not his opponents. His opponents are the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya have gone nowhere. We are just doing what the people of Kenya want.
The contest before Kenyans, the choice they're going to be making on 27 is really between the proponents of one term na wale wengine.
All right. Mbui, what factors top the list of this particular mechanism? Is it scientific polling? What exactly are you looking for? Is it consensus? And what non-negotiables is Wiper going into these deliberations with?
Thank you, Rogers. Rogers, you kindly allow me to first respond to my friend who mentioned some shocking things here. But first, I will say that I heard him condemn the political leader from Nyeri on his utterances, and was very quiet on the president's similar utterances. I mean, the doublespeak is what we must call out. I personally think that both were wrong. I condemn both. I am on the same current political persuasion as the governor for Nyeri, but I think his comments were wrong. I don't think the president's comments were any better, because he did imply an advantage to him as a result of the demise of our hero. So, I mean, that I condemn in the strongest terms possible, and that double speak is what I will never do and I will never go to. But he challenged me when he says that my party leader, His Excellency Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, may be trooping to State House to work with Ruto. And that one, I think I am in a good position to say is very, very unlikely. I am in Wiper, just like Sifuna is in ODM as a Secretary General. I'm the organizing secretary of the party. So I can say authoritatively, just the same way Sifuna says it is one term, I, from Wiper, can say it's one term. We are not working with William Samoei Ruto. There are some things that have happened over the recent past since he took over leadership. There's been a lot of lies to the general public. There's been a lot of killings, abductions, a lot of money that has been lost. And you know, the tax regime has been unpredictable. People have lost jobs. I see a lot of hopelessness in the people that we represent. So that regime, in my opinion, is a sinking ship. And my party leader is a very wise man. He's unlikely to join a sinking ship. And you know, you can know wisdom, because I heard Ruto say that my party leader's hair is falling. Yeah, when you do a lot of thinking, that happens. And also it comes with age. I don't know whether he sees bold people are not clever or something. My colleague here is also becoming bold. Is that a crime? So basically, I think going forward, we are unlikely. But you know, they say a day in politics is a very long time. But I can tell you, we are persuaded and we are convinced that Ruto does not mean, does not mean well for the country. And we wouldn't want to be in a situation where we are part of a government that is polling less than any other government ever. Now, on the matter that my leaders were talking about, I was in that meeting. Yeah. I think just because you narrowed on the people that were near the podium, I was somewhere where many of us, I was at the flanks. But yes, we actually did negotiate and agree to field single candidates in a number of constituencies. We did a deal where the candidate for DCP in Malava stepped down in favor of the DAPK candidate. We had some negotiations where the candidate for DCP again stepped down in favor of the candidate for DP in Bere North. And then we also were fortunate enough to come to an agreement with the candidate for Wiper in Magarini to step down in favor of the DCP candidate. And that was informed by the national picture, the national image. And we didn't want to compete against each other, even though all our candidates were strong. The Wiper candidate in Magarini was extremely strong, but he was magnanimous enough to agree that so that we don't go into these by-elections divided, which would probably mean that we'll go into the next elections divided, we allow one candidate to take the mantle. In Code Coalition, where we were partners with ODM, and for your information, Rogers, we are still in partnership with ODM and Azimio. It is ODM that is now, courting Kenya Kwanza and almost seeming to cross the floor. We are where they left us. We are not moving. And so in 2017, we fielded a candidate of ODM and Wiper against each other in Langata constituency and lost to a URP candidate. So I think those are the lessons that we have to learn from, so that we are careful not to field candidates against each other, because then you end up losing some seats where you would ordinarily, your supporters are more. I mean, the combined force between the Wiper and the ODM candidate in Langata would have been a walkover. I mean, it would have whitewashed the URP candidate. But because they went against each other, the URP candidate passed in the middle, like my party leader did in 2007. Now, So the formula that they are talking about is that we just need to have unity of purpose. People must be able to be magnanimous, like the candidate of Wiper in Magarini, that even though your chances of winning are very high, you can agree for the sake of the country that you step down your ambitions. So I think that's a consensus we are trying to build. And I can tell you that without confirming the candidate, I think the leadership is almost agreed on a way forward. I can tell you, Rogers, I'm seeing you're smiling very heavy. You're about to, you think I'm about to drop the bombshell. No,
you should.
It's well above my pay scale.
Okay.
But I can tell you that it will be an almost obvious choice. Kenyans might not get very surprised, because when you look at that team, they're gelling and they're working together, and they seem to have set up some kind of leadership structures amongst themselves. But I can just tell you that we will have the best candidate, but it is not the best person. I will say, I'm not saying that it will be a bad person. They're all equally good. So what we are going to have is one among equals that will be given the opportunity. And that's a spirit we want to operate with, that none of the leaders is not capable of being president, but since they cannot all be president, then they have to agree that it has to be one among equals. And that's a policy we are going into in the next election. On the Kenya Kwanza side, we have one alone, and the rest of you are his juniors. So that's not what we have on our side. And that's why it will be easy to run the country when you have a team that can sit at the table and you can agree and negotiate on how best to run the country. The reason we are failing as a country is because Kenya Kwanza has one leader, and even his own principal running mate, he kicked him out. He kicked him out bundled him out of office so he could get somebody who is constantly going to be saying yes, sir. So I think going forward, we are giving Kenya a choice of people that will work together, that will hold hands, and will make sure that they listen to each other and they listen to the people, so that the policies that we come up with as government will be policies that are, for the benefit of all our citizens.
And I have to ask this, because Kalonzo Musyoka equally mentioned we're united. You've mentioned matters to do with unity. Why was Jubilee missing in that particular meeting?
Incidentally, Jubilee has always been in our meetings. I think there is, I will say that in that particular meeting, even Martha Karua wasn't there. It's not every time that everybody is able to get there. Okay. I'll tell you the reason Jubilee wasn't there is because in these particular by-elections where we are fielding candidates, Jubilee don't have a candidate against us. And this was a negotiating team where we were trying to discuss those particular candidates. So if Jubilee had a candidate against our candidate in any of those places, they would have been at the table so that we can discuss, because they are part of the united opposition. So we didn't exclude them. They just didn't come to the table because they didn't have candidates there. And Martha Karua also didn't have candidates under PLP.
Understandable.
So that's the reason why they were not there. Otherwise, they are part and parcel. And I can tell you, they are equally, the same level of equals.
Jared Okello, as you come in, I'd like you to perhaps react to the utterances by President William Ruto that Mheshimiwa here has repeated time and time again that perhaps we should equally call out the president, referring to Raila Odinga being the only opposition, solid opposition he would face in 2027. Let's just listen in briefly to what the president had to say.
Yani mtu ningeshingana na yeye ni Raila Odinga. Lakini sasa hawa nitawamalizia asubuhi na mapema. Very early in the morning.
Yeah, short, straight to the point. So I had your Secretary General mention that mtoto wa Simba ni Simba. Do you hold the same sentiments, or do you agree with President William Ruto in terms of this contest in 2027?
Firstly, there is really nothing wrong by President Ruto's statement. He has only said that having scanned around those who aligned to the opposition politics, the only person worth, an effective competition could have been Baba. So had Baba been alive, then Ruto was going to, be subjected to a run for his money.
So there's no one in ODM currently who can give Ruto a run for his money?
Well, he didn't talk about ODM. He just
I'm just asking you.
Yeah. He just said Baba.
Yeah.
Leaders are also made. There are those who are made, there are those who are self-made. And, my brother Mbui really took offense with that statement as if it can be equated to what Governor Kahiga said. These are totally different wordings, totally different meanings as well. Kahiga was celebrating. President Ruto was only saying, I've looked at the opposition, I will be competing against myself. Just like Suluhu competing against Hassan in Tanzania. In politics, I've learned over the years that you never say never. Towards the elections of 2022, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka vowed never to work with Raila Odinga again. He vowed, and not once, not twice, but severally. He came back to work with Raila Odinga, and he did not even become the nominee for deputy presidency. He came to lend his support, hoping to, be appreciated after the elections. Yeah. So in politics, I would be very slow to say Kalonzo can never work with President Ruto. We still have 2 years, and my brother Mbui understands that a day in politics is way too much. And 2 years now is a century in politics. Things will change. There are people within his persuasion, President Ruto's persuasion, who may at the end of the day cross over to join with the opposition. There are those in the opposition now who may cross over to work with President Ruto. So things change, and that is the nature of our politics. Up to now, they do not have a candidate. But we know them. There are only barely 6 people, 6 individuals, with the exception of Gachagua, who can never run for any political seat on planet Earth. People may want to say that he has a pending case in court.
He has an exhausted legal mechanisms.
Yes, but you have to draw a reference from what happened to my brother Sonko. Sonko, having been impeached from Nairobi, ran to Mombasa under Wiper to run as governor of Mombasa. He had a pending case in court, but it called for the Supreme Court to render an advisory opinion and said, pending or no pending, once impeached and confirmed by the Senate, is final. And you have to remember that the Senate sits as a quasi-judicial body. So it is not very far from our courts of law. And therefore, anybody harboring any thoughts that Gachagua can run to be anything, not even a member of county assembly from Othaya, he cannot, because he has been impeached. But I understand where he's driving his politics. He now has a political party called DCP. He would want to have as many members of parliament from the Mount Kenya region as can be feasibly possible, which is not going to happen anyway. But then he would want to use those numbers to negotiate with whoever and whomever, so that if Ruto wins and comes back into the house, he will present his people so that he can get some business dealings. If it is whoever wins, then he has those numbers to present. So that is where he's coming from.
All right.
But he cannot run for any political seat. The opposition will still hold seminars, they will hold interviews for people who would want to run to become president and deputy. But Kenya Kwanza they already have a candidate called William Samoei Ruto. So Ruto is sitting pretty, waiting for whoever the opposition will present to him to face at the ballot. As a political party called ODM, we will make a decision in 2027. But one thing that must be made clear is that ODM is going to form government or is going to be party to that which forms government. So either way, ODM is going to be in government. I listened to, from the video caption you just played,
yes,
of the DCP party leader, they impeached Gachagua, say that the by-elections will be the test towards both their unity and their movement towards 2027.
Okay.
I do not know what he will say if all the candidates aligned to him are defeated at the ballot. Because you look at Malava, for example, or Magarini, where ODM was actually the sitting candidate.
Yes.
And you looked at Ugunja, Kasipul, chances are that those who are either in UDA or in ODM are going to carry the day. So will they then come back and say, by the way, we made a mistake, we are heading nowhere, now that we have lost what ought to have been the test for the way forward?
Okay, let's see how the cookie crumbles. 27th is not too far off. Mbui, briefly.
I don't know. Rogers, I think when I listen to my colleague here, I really wonder how many people really, from deep inside, supported Raila Amolo Odinga. Because anyone making a comment concerning his death and seeing it as an advantage to them, before the 40-day mourning period, their own tradition recognizes, is really somebody who has to be condemned. And for him to pussyfoot around that matter and is okay with it, it surprises me. And Rogers, maybe personally I feel so deeply for Baba, because I am one of those, other than those people who are killed when supporting Baba, I'm one of those that was maimed supporting Baba. I live with a permanent injury. I have a metal bar in my leg that I got when I was supporting Baba going to Uhuru Park. So for me, I have personal pain, physical pain, permanent injury, and so therefore, when somebody speaks about my leader in the manner that Ruto did, I have to take offense. But again, there are those people who are very comfortable because they are looking at what is in it for them. I see no positive in the comment that he made. I think it was in bad taste. I think that was unfair for the family because they're still mourning. We are going to mourn him on Thursday, but somebody is already saying, this one has died, so I'll not have no competition. You don't speak that way. It's totally an African, and it's very fair. But I also hear him say that ODM, we haven't got a candidate. As a united opposition, we are still trying to look for one. Then he says ODM is going to form government. ODM have no presidential candidate, are not even proposing one. So how are you going to form government? And yet you are saying we are in this relationship up to 2027. That's why I've said the ODM have to change their tact. They have to come out of this relationship in 2026. And finally, when he says, we might lose the elections, the only thing going for the regime is the ill-gotten wealth that they have. There's a lot of money they are dishing out. And so they believe that, by dishing out money to the poor Kenyans, that they have made sure are poor and impoverished them as much as possible, overtaxed them. So now when they give them a little bit of a handout here and there, they believe these people are going to vote for them. I don't think Kenyans are going to be that gullible. I believe Kenyans are going to vote with their conscience. And Kenyans have to, we've given them the choice. We've told them, you choose between the 1 term and 2 term. 1 term is so that we can change this regime and give you better services, give you better health, make sure that the lecturers are out of the streets, children can learn in schools and in the university, provide a better environment for the country to thrive.
Okay.
But 2 term means that the status quo and the pain continues. I don't think Kenyans will accept that.
All right, gentlemen, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree at that particular point. Our time is up. Time flies when you're having fun, as they say. Unfortunately, we'll try and host you guys later on, perhaps after the by-election, to see how this litmus test really panned out. We definitely appreciate your input, gentlemen, after a long day representing Kenyans. Jared Okello, the Member of Parliament of Nyando constituency, and Robert Mbui, the Member of Parliament for Kadhiani constituency, graced us tonight, just getting their take on the political landscape and how things are playing out in regards to that by-election coming up, in regards to the reality post-Raila, and equally what to do, or the metrics in terms of picking a candidate to face off against President William Ruto. That's how we wrap things up tonight on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're adequately informed. My name is Jesse Rogers. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Maresha Uwiti. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a good night.